But, Charlie, let's talk about Rotherham, shall we? Because this is an exclusive story that you've been following closely. And, of course, a sexual exploitation survivor was ordered to remove a demand for her abuser to be deported. This is a revelation that you can tell us more about.
Yeah, so I was in Sheffield Crown Court last week for the sentencing of 7 men from Operation Stovewood. That's the National Crime Agency investigation into these historic abuse allegations and the scandal that happened in the South Yorkshire town. And I have to say, I was the only reporter in the court when the victim impact statements were delivered. One of the survivors standing up in the witness box next to the judge and telling her abusers, 20 years ago you groomed me, 10 years ago I started my fight for justice. Now you took my childhood, you took my innocence, I am taking your freedom, I am your karma. Incredibly brave and powerful delivery. But just before she gave that statement, before she came into the courtroom, the CPS barrister and the judge had a discussion, which I overheard, in which the CPS said any decision on whether or not they remain in this country lies with the Home Office. It's not for this courtroom to decide. And having spoken with the survivor since she delivered that speech, I've seen copies of the original statement she wanted to deliver, in which she made a final request, quite politely saying, I'd like to request that 2 of the men involved in this abuse, who she says were born in Pakistan, have dual nationality and can therefore be deported. She said, I'd like them to be deported after they've served their sentences. Those 2 men given 16 years and 25 years in prison, respectively. 2 of the most appalling abusers who are in the dock for those 106 years being handed down. But that request was removed. Now, under the UK Borders Act, any foreign national offender serving a custodial sentence over 12 months should be deported. However, with the grooming gang scandal, there have been several cases like this where that has not happened. The most notorious case is that of Kari Ralph in Rochdale. He was sentenced to 6 years. A decade later, he's still fighting deportation, even though he's had his British nationality stripped due to various ECHR and legal battles he's put on. Now, I think this survivor fears the same will happen again with her abusers. That's why she wanted to say in court, in open justice, for everyone to hear, thankfully we were there to hear it, what she wanted to happen, that she wanted those abusers to be out of the country. She said that she had no confidence that after those sentences are served, and they'll serve half of them, that they will be safe to be released into the community. I should also add very quickly that under the 2022 Nationality and Borders Act, the government introduced a provision that any country that refuses to accept foreign national offenders being deported should be and could be subject to visa penalties. So the government could punish Pakistan and say, if you don't accept these grooming gang abusers, we won't let your workers come to this country. Now, I understand, my sources tell me that the Foreign Office has consistently blocked that power being used. Suella Braverman last night told me she wants that power to be used. Lee Anderson has also told me he wants that power to be used. Laura Farris, the safeguarding minister, told me in March she thought it would be sensible for that power to be used. The Home Office last night told me it would not comment on individual cases.
That's just insanity. Why would we deliberately choose to pay for child sexual abusers to be here when they don't have to be?
Well, under ECHR rulings, they can claim a right to family life. They can say that they'll be at threat if they move back home. These legal battles have succeeded, but this survivor wanted to let it known through sharing her statement with me that she wants these abusers to be deported. They're evil men, she said, and they've got to be let out of the country.
Charlie, you did sterling work in Rotherham, and you were indeed, as you said, the only journalist in that courtroom for the victim impact statements. Why? I don't know. Make your own minds up for that. But keep up the good work and give us an update when you get it.
We're taking a look through the newspaper front pages this morning, starting with The Sun, who, of course, are leading on Hugh Edwards. They've been leading very much with this story, and they're talking about a suspended sentence over child sex abuse images, describing it as sickening.
The Daily Mirror also leads on that story, with the BBC saying Hugh Edwards, betrayed audiences.
The Telegraph reporting that the Prime Minister faces an investigation after accepting gifts from a millionaire donor who was later given a pass to access number 10.
And the Financial Times leads with Sir Keir Starmer eyeing up Italy's asylum and migration model after his meeting with the Italian PM yesterday.
And finally, the Times is leading with the junior doctors accepting a 22% pay rise, but saying that this will not be the end of the matter.
Joining us now to go through all that and more is Nikki Hodgson and Alex Armstrong. Good morning to you both.
Good morning.
I guess we start with the obvious Hugh Edwards on the front pages of all the papers this morning. 6 months suspended sentence, Alex. Justice done?
Yeah, well, we can't avoid this topic today, unfortunately, can we? In my opinion, justice is not done, and I know that millions of Brits in this country are going to wake up today with seeing these headlines and feel that there is not a justice has not been served on this case. Of course, some of the things we've heard in the courts about some of the offences that he's been found guilty of, including opening a folder with child abuse images and writing it was, in quotes, amazing, the pictures that he was sent. It's just going to sicken the nation this morning. So I think the Sun and the Daily Mail have got this absolutely right. I just feel like I understand there's an argument to be made here that this is the same sentence that other people of this crime would be put down for, would be sent down for, but I just don't think this is really the kind of look that our country and British people will really, really expect from a crime like this. They would want to see a custodial sentence. They'd want to see someone go down into prison for this. And there are people who have been sent down for a lot less over the last few months. We've seen the keyboard warriors, and I'm not excusing their whatever they've wrote on social media, just to be very, very clear. But I think we need to have some deep introspection in our country about our justice system, and we should look at rewriting laws if that is why he's not going down.
Well, we don't imprison people that commit this crime. We nearly always give them suspended sentences for various reasons. And one of the factors here would be that he would have been a target in prison. I wonder if that's what the...
So?
Well,
so what?
But then we know that happens routinely. That costs the taxpayer more money. If you've got to put somebody in isolation because everybody else is trying to kill them, which is what happens.
Well, I think I'd argue most taxpayers would probably have no problem with putting him in prison.
The reason he wasn't given a custodial sentence was because it was following the sentencing guidelines for the tier of paedophile, frankly, that he was.
Sure.
He didn't create the images, he didn't send the images, he opened them. In mitigation, his defence explained that, yes, he'd entered an early plea, which is supposed to save taxpayers loads of money in not needing a jury, but he also, he actually allegedly said, please don't send me any underage images. He was seriously underwell with a significant mental health problem. None of this will make people feel better.
Yes.
I have a child the age of the worst images. These are an 8-year-old son. It horrifies and disgusts me.
As parents,
but, the judge hasn't done anything wrong. He was a first-time offender.
And I agree. And so that comes back to Alex's point about maybe it's time for a discussion about how we actually punish people that do this. And the other thing that I just want to say is that, the NSPCC estimates that 1 in 20 children will be sexually abused. That is a boggling statistic. And the danger with a story like this is that we make out that Hugh Edwards is an anomaly, that he's on the outskirts, that he's a monster, that he's nothing like anybody else. And the reality is we have a massive problem with child sexual abuse in this country. Yeah,
I think the reality is that people are waking up to see this is how the justice system works for people who have been accused of paedophilia on this tier. That's what people are waking up to now, going, oh, wow, that's actually what the sentence would be. And I don't think Brits are going to be happy with that sentence. En masse, I think you'll find the vast majority of people will say he should have gone down for something. And I get, Ben, you're saying that you don't care if he goes to prison. I don't care either, actually.
I don't care if he's bashed up in prison. Why should I?
I understand people they're looking after his health, but what about the safety of the children?
Well, that's what I wanted to say. The 8-year-old or 7-year-old, whatever, the 7 to 9-year-old boy, the youngest one, and the images that he was accessing. What's happened to him? And what sort of support is he being given in all of this? The CPS yesterday saying that accessing, which is what he did, indecent images of children perpetuates the sexual exploitation of them, which has deep, long-lasting trauma for these victims. It's terrible.
Yeah. And also the mitigation in his defence, I was just absolutely stunned, and what an insult to the victims as well. He was saying in his defence that because he didn't get into Oxford and had to study at Cardiff, he felt inferior at the BBC, and that played a part in his mental health deterioration. He had an abusive father. So what? Everybody goes through tough childhoods.
Everyone at the BBC has the same.
That doesn't make you a paedophile, unfortunately. That's the reality.
I'm not a Oxford reject. I've been dealing with my whole life.
But you're not a paedophile.
No, quite.
Right, let's talk about junior doctors, something that's going to get us equally hot under the collar, I suspect. This is inside the Daily Mail. 22% pay hike for junior doctors. They don't want to be called junior doctors anymore. From tomorrow, they will be described as resident doctors to reflect their experience and seniority, not quite consultants. Huge pay rise, yet they are saying not enough, and this will not necessarily stave off future strikes. So what on earth are the Labour Party doing settling at a time of national sort of crisis, financial crisis, Nikki?
Yeah, I mean, this thing about the junior doctors is fascinating. I sort of take the point about renaming them, because actually junior does sort of imply that they are very,
Junior.
And they've often been doing that job for 10 years or more. So that I don't have an issue with. The pay rise issue is more of a problem. If you reach an agreement with a body of workers that still is basically saying, OK, you've given us some terms that we've agreed to, but actually we haven't agreed to them because we're going to carry on striking anyway, you're being held to ransom, aren't you, as a government? And look, I'm the first person to support striking. Not that I ever strike in this industry, because you can't. But I mean, what I mean by that is, like, I support their right to strike. But if they didn't do the deal they wanted or were going to agree to, then why bother at all? Like, that's the bit that I don't understand. I completely understand about NHS, what they perceive to be NHS underfunding and overworking and lack of safety for them and for patients. Fine, but keep negotiating then.
Yeah, I feel like this is sort of only changed because we've got a Labour government in power, and I feel there's a lot of politicisation. Can't say that word.
Politicisation.
Thank you very much. of the junior doctors in general. And this whole strike, I mean, it just felt like it was never ending under the Tories, and Labour have got in. Of course, they've given them a deal, which is good. But it's going to lead to more. It's going to lead to more. What about actual GPs? What they're going to start? I mean, we heard that there's rumours they're not going to do overtime anymore. And so it never ends, unfortunately. When you give in to one, then you give in to the rest. And this black hole that has had 9 billion of it contributed by this Labour government, it's only been in power for less than 3 months.
Which the Treasury won't give us any figures on, by the way.
Yes.
Why won't they tell us more details?
Why won't they tell us more? Well,
odd.
I think you might find that black hole is contributed by them slightly more than they're letting on, hence why the FT's freedom of information request was denied. So I think that this black hole's going to keep on getting bigger, and we're going to have to borrow more money, and the taxpayers are going to have to pay more in taxes, aren't they?
Well, as you said, it's going to be radiographers next, and it'll be paramedics, and it'll be every man and his dog. You've opened the floodgates.
Yeah, you certainly have.